What if a full-scale invasion didn't need tanks, strategy, or even effort? What if there were countries so small, so isolated, or so unprotected that a single paratrooper might be overkill? In today's video, we're diving into a dark but fascinating thought experiment. Which countries would be the easiest to invade? Now, let's get one thing clear. This isn't about bullying or conquest. This is about military vulnerability, geography, logistics, and yes, a bit of cold hard reality. From landlocked microstates to peaceful islands with no standing army, these nations check every box for being defenseless, not by mistake, but often by design. Take San Marino for instance. The entire country is smaller than most airport runways. Or Iceland. No standing military, no serious weaponry, and a location that's peaceful by nature, but impossible to defend. But here's what makes this list even more interesting. Some of these countries rely on treaties, alliances, or even pure obscurity to avoid being invaded. It's like hiding in plain sight and trusting the neighborhood to stay quiet. We're not ranking these nations by how likely they are to be invaded, but by how easy it would be if someone actually tried. So get ready to explore 10 nations where, if history took a darker turn, they wouldn't stand much of a chance. This isn't a video about war. It's a video about why peace is fragile, why location matters, and how sometimes defense is nothing more than trusting your neighbors. Let's start with number 10, Iceland. Iceland feels like a place built for peace. Volcanoes, waterfalls, northern lights, sure, but defense systems? Not really. Here's the deal. Iceland has no standing army, no tanks, no fighter jets. They do have a coast guard, but it's focused on rescue, not war. Since 1949, Iceland has relied on NATO membership and the idea that no one would ever want to invade. And to be fair, it's worked so far. But if someone did try, there's no local defense force to push back. No conscription, no large weapons stockpile, just a few airstrips and the trust and diplomacy. Geographically, Iceland is isolated, but not unreachable. A well-equipped force could seize control before breakfast, and Icelanders, most of them would probably apologize for the inconvenience. 9. Luxembourg. Luxembourg is rich, well-connected, and absolutely tiny. It's about the size of a major city suburb, roughly 999 square miles. But unlike cities, it's a sovereign nation with borders, embassies, and a flag. What it doesn't have is much defense. Luxembourg maintains a military of just around 1,000 personnel, mostly for peacekeeping and support. It relies heavily on NATO and regional cooperation. If anyone crossed its borders with force, there's no real barrier, not geographically, not militarily. Its best defense, a long-standing reputation as neutral, diplomatic, and unthreatening. But on paper, it wouldn't take more than a day's operation to seize full control. 8. Gambia. Gambia is one of the smallest countries in Africa, shaped like a thin ribbon of land carved along the Gambia River. It's almost entirely surrounded by Senegal, with just a narrow opening to the Atlantic Ocean. Now imagine this. If Senegal ever wanted to invade, and to be clear, they don't, it could practically do it without resistance. Gambia's military is modest, a few thousand troops, light weaponry, and very limited air or naval capacity. Back in 2017, a political crisis erupted when the former president refused to leave office after an election defeat. Guess who showed up? Senegalese troops, with regional backing, entered Gambian territory to pressure a peaceful transition. There was no resistance, not even a skirmish. Gambia has no buffer, no mountains, no natural fortifications. Its defense rests on diplomacy and friendly neighbors. But if things ever got tense, Gambia would have nowhere to run. 7. Panama. Panama holds one of the world's most strategic locations, the Panama Canal, a shortcut that connects the Atlantic to the Pacific. It's the highway of global trade. Ships worth billions pass through it every year. But if someone ever wanted to take it by force, Panama wouldn't stand a chance. Here's why. Panama abolished its military in 1990. No army, no air force, just a police force and a few security agencies. It relies entirely on diplomacy, US support, and international law to keep itself safe. But the canal? It's tempting. Control that, and you control global shipping lanes. Now, nobody's lining up to invade Panama. But if they did, they could do it with frightening ease. There's little resistance on the ground, and the canal would be the first thing to go. Peaceful? Yes. Defended? Barely. 6. Maldives. The Maldives is a dream. White beaches, crystal blue water, floating villas. But militarily, it's a sitting duck. Made up of about 1,200 coral islands, the Maldives has no deep water ports, no advanced air defenses, and almost no land for a proper military base. Its defense force numbers just under 5,000 personnel, mostly for internal security and coastal patrol. They have no air force, no heavy artillery, no naval warships. If any naval power wanted to make a move, there's no place to retreat, no place to regroup. And its flat geography means there's no high ground, just ocean on every side, and nowhere to hide. The Maldives has survived because no one wants to ruin paradise. But if that ever changes, it won't have the firepower to push back. Number 5. Bhutan. Bhutan is a country most people only hear about in travel blogs or meditation podcasts. It's peaceful, spiritual. It measures success and gross national happiness instead of GDP. But when it comes to defense, Bhutan has made a bold decision. It doesn't have a real army. There's a small Royal Bhutan army, around 8,000 strong. But the country depends on India for military training, supplies, and protection. And considering its neighbors, India and China, that's a risky position to be in. If a border dispute ever turned aggressive, Bhutan wouldn't have the strength to hold out. In fact, during the 2017 Doklam standoff, Chinese and Indian troops faced off on Bhutanese territory. Bhutan just watched. It had no role in its own defense. It's a beautiful place with deep values. But militarily, it's vulnerable. And if your national security depends on someone else's army, then you're not really protected. You're just hoping their priorities never change. 4. Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein feels more like a fairy tale than a country. It has castles, mountains, vineyards, and fewer people than a small college town, just about 4,000 residents. And no military. That's right, Liechtenstein abolished its army in 1868. Why? They said it was too expensive. Since then, they've had no armed forces, just a police force and the long-standing hope that neutrality and diplomacy will be enough. It's surrounded by friendly nations, Switzerland and Austria, and has never been invaded in modern history. But if someone decided to test that peace, there'd be almost no resistance. A high school football team might have better numbers. Fun fact, during the Austro-Prussian War, Liechtenstein sent 80 men to the battlefield. None died. In fact, they came home with 81. They made a friend. That's the kind of country we're talking about. 3. Somalia. Unlike others on this list, Somalia isn't easy to invade because it's weak. It's easy because it's already broken. For decades, Somalia has had no strong central government. Warlords control regions, piracy thrives on the coast. It's more like a map of territories than a single, unified nation. There's a national army, but it's fragmented, underfunded, and constantly stretched thin. Many regions operate like independent states. Some are literally run by militias. Invading Somalia wouldn't meet much formal resistance because there's no single structure to resist. But here's the twist. While easy to invade, Somalia is nearly impossible to control. Foreign forces have tried, including the US in the 1990s, and they left in frustration. So yes, it's easy to get in, but very, very hard to get out. 2. Haiti. Haiti has faced invasion before, by France, the US, even internal coups. And right now, it has no army. Not really. The Haitian military was disbanded in 1995, after decades of coups and abuse. A new force was slowly reintroduced in recent years, but it's small, undertrained, and largely symbolic. The country is also dealing with economic collapse, gang violence, and political vacuum. There's no reliable police force, no air defense, no coastal navy. If a foreign power wanted to take over tomorrow, there'd be no tanks rolling out, no fighter jets scrambling, just chaos, confusion, and silence. Haiti's vulnerability isn't just military, it's systematic. And when a nation's core is fractured, invasion becomes easy, not just with guns, but with influence. 1. San Marino or Vatican City. And now we reach the top. Two tiny nations sitting inside Italy. One of them is holy, the other is historic. Neither of them can defend themselves. Let's start with Vatican City, the smallest country in the world. Total area, just 0.49 square kilometers. It has no army, just the Swiss Guard, a ceremonial unit tasked with protecting the Pope. If anyone climbed the wall, that's it. That's the defense. Then there's San Marino, older than most modern states, founded in 301 AD. Also no military, just a small volunteer police force and a lot of good relations with Italy. If you sent in even a platoon of soldiers, you could take control in hours. No battle, no defense, just quiet surrender or evacuation. But they're not invaded because, well, they're not worth invading. They rely on Italy for protection, and they've survived by keeping their heads low and their alliances tight. Small, peaceful, vulnerable. And for that reason, they're number one on our list of the easiest countries to invade. So what do all these countries have in common? Some have no military at all, some are protected by bigger allies. Others are just so unstable that resistance would barely show up. But here's the real story. Sometimes peace comes from power, and sometimes peace survives only because no one disturbs it. What would happen if the world suddenly changed? If alliances failed? If powerful neighbors looked the other way? That's the terrifying thought behind this list. And it's why even the smallest nations need more than just geography to stay safe. So don't forget to give us a like if you found this video useful. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more content, because history isn't done surprising us.